Hello, everybody. I'm Gina Fania. I'm the New York City Fellow, New York Leadership Leader for New York City, for the New York City Fellowship. I'm here today with Alum, Erik Antokal, who's among our finalists for the team class. I'm going to interview Erik about his time in the program, and then there'll be an opportunity to ask questions as well. To orient you to Erik, I'm going to read from his bio. Erik Antokal is the Workforce Development Officer at Non-Traditional Employment for Women, NEW, a nonprofit organization for skilled, unionized careers in blue-collar fields. Referring to maintain a behind-the-scenes role at this women's organization, Erik leads the employment team at NEW, which is responsible for supporting new graduates as they navigate toward their career choice, for managing the employment process for trade unions as partner employers, and for tracking, analyzing, and improving graduate outcomes. Coming to NEW from an equity of access philosophy, Erik previously led the human resources and external affairs teams at NYC Modular, an ambitious factory build for high rises. FC Modular's operations produced a workforce that prioritized the inclusion of NYC residents, veterans, women, and local communities while completing 451 Main Street, a 50% affordable apartment tower, and the world's tallest volumetric modular building. Erik credits his skills and values to the peers, mentors, and experiences he gained through the Coral Fellows program. There, he had the privilege of 11 other fellows providing him with open feedback, coaching, and support over the 9-month program year. While a host of multi-sector job experiences provided an understanding of New York City's social, political, and economic years, his fellow fellows and the Coral community demonstrated the skills he now uses and continuously improves to navigate the complex world of opening economic opportunity to those whose access is impeded. Thank you so much, Erik, for being here.
Thank you for reading that. It's a mouthful.
It's impressive.
Thank you.
So I'm going to just launch into our questions for today.
Sure.
They're really composed of a lot of some of the most common questions that I've received interested out.
Okay.
Okay, so the first. The Coral Fellowship is fellows the opportunity to experience across New York City. Can you tell us about your experiences and key placements you had during your time in the program and how the projects you worked on contrasted or complement one another? And then how did those experiences have an impact on your professional life post-Coral?
Wow. Okay. So I'll start with that first question about the two placements. So the two that spring to mind most immediately are my placement at SEIU 32BJ, which is a trade union for folks who are in the building maintenance industry, doormen, door people, and other building-related trades once the building is actually constructed. So I worked for them as a surrogate for the Obama campaign in 2012. And needless to say, it was a hectic time. Any campaign is, especially that one. And it was an experience that was really like no other. I mean, the hours were intense, and it was very much focused around working with people at the union to hone their skills, coach them through interviews, coach them on organizing, coach them on getting out the vote, and different other campaign strategies, as well as copywriting, getting coffee. It's like everything, right? So it's all hands on deck very much, and that all culminated where the supervisor who was supposed to go on a day-long trip to Philadelphia on the day before the election to do Get Out the Vote campaign actually just didn't show up the last day. And so this is also the last day of my placement at 32BJ. And so my boss, I called her and I was like, Natalia, what do I do? There's 50 union members here and 10 staff and no one's here to lead them. She's like, well, you just do it. And I'm like, deer in the headlights. I don't know what to do, but at that time, I'm 22 years old, and I got all these people who have been in the business for way longer than me. But at the end of the day, we organized it, and I got the team to Philadelphia, got them to all their different drop zones, and they did their canvassing. We organized it, we tallied it, we got everybody home in one piece, I think. I mean, I'm pretty sure. But no, it was just an exercise in getting people to be all on the same page in a frantic situation. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces of the fellows program. And I think it's all about moving people in the direction that that you feel is, you know, the direction that they should be moved, or in the direction of the larger purpose, and that what that purpose is to be defined, right? And I think that's also is the same concept in the second placement in the answer to your question, which is where I worked at Equinox, which is for those of you who don't know, is a chain of luxury fitness centers. And they would kill me if I said gym, so I'm gonna call it fitness center. But it's or fitness clubs, I think. But it's a very high-end fitness club where it's a very different environment to say the least from working at a labor union. And so my project there for my placement was to work with the staff, so creative designers, IT people, billing, strategists, you know, everybody, because in order to get them from their Microsoft Office suite of programs and get them over to Google Apps, so email and Google Drive and Google Calendar, all these things. So it's not an easy transition. It requires a lot of explaining and making sure that people are all on the same page and getting them to not just accept that their old way of doing things is being phased out, but to really sell the alternative. And I think that's one of the big things that Coro drove home for me, is that it's not enough to say, you know, we got to change this. You have to make sure that there is an attractive alternative that really works for everyone who's involved. Because there's a fear of loss. I think there's always this fear of loss, and even if it's something that seems so pedestrian as, you know, your email layout, when that's something that, you know, you interact with on a minute-to-minute basis, and you live and die by that email inbox, it means a lot to people. And I think it's Coro, I think, was key in making me understand how things become important to people, and then how to use that importance to actually to get them where you need them to go. So I don't know if that answers the question.
I think that answers the question. So
I'm just gonna tweak this a little bit. I feel like I was like leaning back, getting off camera.
great. So we talk a lot about how we have dedicated alumni. How did the network impact you while you were a fellow, and how do you now interact with the network as an alum?
Yeah, it's I feel like a poster child sometimes, but then I realized that I think a lot of Coro stories are like mine, so that I'm not really a poster child. But so the first two jobs that I had post Coro would have been, I mean, they wouldn't have even been on the table had I not gone through the program. So the long story short is that I came to Coro wanting to go to med school and then work on health policy, kind of, you know, take Obamacare to, you know, another level, and, you know, do like a real insurance overhaul. Really, you know, was very passionate about public health and health insurance and that whole system. And through Coro, you know, all of that got kind of, it's just upheaval, and, you know, is that really what you want to do? And, you know, it got very much twisted around, and I settled on more of an economic development track for my career. And I was speaking with another alum who was she was about 10 years removed from the program, and very much a role model, and thought very highly of her. We had met her through the program and then at a couple of other events. And following Coro, I was kind of not aimless, but very much open to a lot of different things. And so I was applying to many different jobs, all of which sounded interesting, but none of which were like the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this person reached out to Coro, actually, who then reached out to me. Was like, hey, are you interested in working for the city government and doing economic development at a neighborhood level? And so that really only came about because that person knew me, and she ran the department at which I went to go work. So she gave me my start. I had no idea that that would be the case. That would be my first job following Coro, but it turned out to be great. I was there for 2+ years, and it was a great team. And I only left because of another Coro connection, where a connection that I had made through our cohort itself reached out to me with an opportunity that was more in line with my career goals and was a new challenge that I was very, very excited about. And so that connection definitely wouldn't have happened without Coro. So it continues to give back. It's really like the value that you place on that piece of it, the network, is so hard to quantify, because it's a network of what does that actually mean? You know, how can I be sure? It's not like a quantitative experiment. It just it rears its head in very strange ways, and it's been so beneficial to have that group of, it's like 2,000 plus people now, almost 2,500. Yeah, almost 2,500 people now. You know, they're all in your corner. So it's powerful. It's very powerful. And then the second thing was, how am I involved now? Oh my gosh. So I love webinars. So that's number one. So I try to make it to every single alumni event that I can. And I think the honest answer is that I like it. It's fun to come back and hang out and spend time with the people that you know, and it really does become a bit of a family. It sounds cliche, but that really is what it is. And then at the same time, I think down deep, I do feel indebted to this program. It's, without the kinds of opportunities and skill sets that it opened up, there's just no way I'd be doing what I'm doing now, which I feel is exactly what I want to be doing. Yeah, please. That's what the program's all about. Wow. That's again, you can tell I'm not very quantitative. That's also tough to quantify. So there's so many different avenues by which alumni interact with the current fellows. They'll host you for, I won't give too much away, but they'll host you for group interviews where you get to pick their brain about their leadership style, their track to be where they are now, what their advice is to young leaders. And it's something that is so, where they can speak the Coro language, which is a bit of a dialect. So it's nice to to have that from somebody who is in some of the role, in a role that's a lot of the fellows do aspire to. So there's that, and there's also several alumni gatherings, more informal networking situations where alums will come back and they'll talk about their experiences, they'll buy you a drink, they'll do, just general, more casual stuff. Some of them will be placement hosts. So in the 6-week placements, the host, it's often Coro alums that are actually the direct supervisors of the fellows, because those are the people who know the skill set and the drive and the excitement that a Coro fellow brings. So they're the ones advocating to their supervisors, like, hey, we need to get this person for this project. So, and the list goes on and on, even to more informal things where you can basically cold call or cold email somebody who's part of the alumni database as a fellow and say, hey, I'm a current fellow, which immediately bumps you to the top of their priority list, sometimes, most of the time. And that, those are really where like a lot of the great work happens, and it takes a long time to schedule these out. But basically, making sure that you're building these actual real life bonds against the backdrop of Coro. So to quantify it, I would say it's got to be well over 200. It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of people. Yeah. Mhm.
How would you say the false
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So there's so many. Um, you'll get tired of seminars and all of the skills that they're throwing at you. But the big one that jumps out to me is having real tough conversations around power and privilege, race, ethnicity, sexual identity, gender identity. Um, it is such a it's such an important skill set to have, even on a minute to minute basis, all the time in our daily lives. There these identities, these parts of us are always at play, and they're subconscious, and they're influencing everything that we do. So so for me, and I had a bit of the skill set to have these conversations coming out of college, but Coro really, between having such a diverse group of people in the program itself, who are so honest and willing and excited to have these intense conversations and give direct feedback to you personally about the way you show up in a group, or the way they perceive you to show up, or the way you're sort of playing into different tropes or stereotypes. It's pretty invaluable to have that kind of reflection, or that kind of image reflected back at you. So for me, on a day-to-day basis, this helps me to have these conversations, especially with my white peers, who in some cases are not as aware of some of their implicit biases, and they don't always go well. These are very long processes to understand not only your own implicit biases, which I still, obviously, struggle with and work to understand on a day-to-day basis, but at the same time to help people around you understand. And I don't think that it's the role of white folks to have any kind of central role in the movement for equality or equity or racial justice, or any kind of sort of social justice movement. But I do think that there's an amplifying role that we can play, where given the access that we have to white communities, we can really use the tools in this toolbox of discussing these very, very tough issues with our peers who might not be willing or able or influenced to go and have those conversations with people of color. So it's a skill set that I don't think I would have had with in such depth without Coro. And it's also, on top of that, there's a certain drive or motivation that I took away from Coro. It is so important for those in our society with power, with privilege, to use that to strive for a more egalitarian situation, and that happens on an individual level, I think.
So moving away from the leadership aspect,
Okay.
and a little bit more the harder skills, I would say. So the Coral Fellowship values multiple skills and encourages fellows to look at issues from all different angles. Can you speak to the time you perception on issue or challenge by experience you had while in the fellowship?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the overview caveat to this is that your perception on almost every issue will change. Everything, even if your overall stance on an issue doesn't change, there will be so many nuances added to it that it'll be overwhelming. Honestly, it does get overwhelming to have your kind of core assumptions and thoughts about the world shaken like this. But it's powerful in the end. So as far as specific issues, I think so the charter school issue in New York City specifically comes to mind immediately, where coming through a public high school and then through a private university, I didn't have much of an opinion about what charter schools are and what they do. It's very much, I was like, well, there's other schools out there, and it gives alternatives to people. So like, that sounds pretty good. At the same time, learning from other folks, and this is the beauty of the program, is that it's not learning from a website or from a textbook or anything. It's learning from people who are actually in the work of, in this example, running charter schools or running public schools, or in education policy at the city level or at the state level, or actually at the federal level as well. We did meet with somebody. But so you really get a sense of all the different players who come into play when it comes to defining what this institution really looks like in this country, and specifically in New York City. So for me, the takeaway on charter schools is that they are much more polarizing than I had originally thought about. And that was a relatively naive perspective. And then from there, the way that they are sort of a wedge in the public education system is, on one hand, potentially sort of dangerous to the all-covering concept of taxpayers pay in, and they get out public good. When it comes to charter schools, it becomes a little more subverted, where there's private enterprise at play, and the rules and regulations around what they can and cannot do are very different. So it creates strong feelings on both sides. And I'm not sure if I should go into which side I come down on, but just save it to say that it's definitely an issue where, like many other issues during the program, you'll come away with a much more nuanced understanding of it, and maybe not a clear stance on it, maybe a less clear stance. That was often the way I found myself. But I think that's the nature of most complex problems or complex solutions, is that there isn't one stance. On some things there are, but on most complicated problems that are worth the time and energy for you to tackle, there isn't just one solution or one way to be about it.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so there's a financial component to the fellows program that I'd like to discuss.
Yeah.
Could you speak about why?
Yeah, so the financial commitment it's quite significant, and so a bit of backstory for me. So I actually, at the time I was leaving college, I was very, very worried about the job market and was not confident in my own abilities to secure employment at the time. So I saved a lot of money. I worked really all of college, but I really started intentionally saving at the end of my junior year of college, and then sort of when I got exposed to Coro through the interview day, I decided that this was the number one thing. And so then I started really kind of, okay, how do I make this work? Because it's intense. The way, to live in a city that's one of the top 3 highest cost of living in the United States, it's no joke to live on a stipend. And as I understand it, they've come up about 50% since I was in the program. So it is difficult, and I think one of the big reasons for me, at least, for donating to these campaigns of raising stipends, is that it is extremely unfair for a program to say, okay, we are going to attract diverse people from all different kinds of backgrounds, but then there's this limiting factor of only being paid X amount a month, and trying to live on that. And so it mathematically excludes a lot of people. But the way that Coro, and I think, has done a great job in the last 3 or 4 years in raising funds directly for this issue, has opened the door to that, to those folks coming into the program. Anyway, so the financial commitment here is, obviously, like, if you're smart, you're passionate, you have a great skill set, you can clearly interview very well. If you have all these things, so if you pass selection day, then clearly you have all these things. if you have all those things, you also have other opportunities to go to some great grad school or get a great job doing X, Y, and Z. This is not a short-term game. So making the commitment to 9 months in the fellows program, I sometimes think about it like, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. This like very cliche New York thing, but it really is true where if you can make it through selection day and then you can make it through the entire fellows program, almost everything else that you do at least for me, so I'll just keep my I voice on, everything else I've done has felt manageable because they throw the amount of stress and work that they throw at you, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, but like, it's real. This is intense. So the amount of work that they're throwing at you allows you to adapt and change and grow in a way that you're ready for essentially anything. And even, the things that you're not ready for, you have the ability to get ready for. So in very solid, financial terms, these 9 months are not going to be up to your earning potential versus what you maybe could have done. But the opportunity cost of that is that you're giving up the acceleration in your career that this program gives. So the first job that I got out of college or out of Coro that I was just talking about, there's no way that I would have had access to a city government job that was sort of at the mid level. There's no way that I would have gotten that. And then had I not had that, there's no way that I would have had such a senior role at FC Modular, which then catapulted me into this more senior role at non-traditional employment for women. So now, we're 3.5 years removed from when I graduated. I'm well ahead of just working for 3.5 years or working for 4 years. So the acceleration in your earning potential and in the responsibilities that come with that are vastly accelerated by the program, and so worth the financial commitment.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to ask a couple of other questions for you. So what is the most challenging part?
Most challenging part of the program. So there's I think there's two answers here. The first answer is that everything together creates this very much, it's what I was just alluding to, it's a perfect storm of different strains on different pathways of your existence. So there's a physical strain, there's a mental strain, there's emotional strain, there's a financial strain. It hits you from all sides. And so everything together really does kind of create this very difficult crucible, really, of something that allows you to grow, but is very painful in the process. As far as a specific thing, because I know that's really what we're trying to get at here, I think learning to sort of deal with very difficult feedback was, at least for me, one of the most challenging pieces of the program, where you have people who are your peers and they are extremely intelligent, extremely driven, and they're not afraid to share all of that drive and that intelligence with you. And so when they hold up a mirror to what you're doing, it means a lot. It's a very it can be a very jarring experience to have someone who knows you in a way that no one else knows you, literally, like not your mom, not your dad, not your siblings, not your significant other, like nobody is going to know you in this way. And so they know you at such a level, and then they use that in some way where it is painful sometimes to hear, like, this is how you're showing up, and it's not clear to me that you actually understand this is how you're showing up. And it makes you realize things about yourself. It's very, very difficult to take that, hold it, and then sit with it for a while and just be okay that, like, that you're not this perfect person, or you're not even close to that you have a lot of work to do. And so accepting that, and then using that to actually, in your day-to-day life, to change habits. And sometimes it's as simple as body language. It's as simple as tone of voice. It's as simple as, you know, a number of words said in an hour space. It takes a lot of mental energy to do that and to accept that feedback.
And why would you say it's worthwhile?
I think if there's one sort of subconscious takeaway from Coro, it's that your ability to self-reflect and to be what we call on the balcony, so to sort of take a bird's eye view, you know, above the conversation, where, you know, you look, okay, like, how am I feeling? You know, how is that feeling clouding my judgment, or how is that influencing the words that I'm using? It allows you to really understand at an observable level how you're behaving, and then using that to shift so that you're better geared to accomplish your goal. It's almost a meditative process where you're looking at what's going on without judgment. You're just looking at observables. You're looking at and observable is maybe the wrong word, but you know, I am feeling upset. You take that feeling, and it's okay. Like, it's okay that you're feeling upset. That is one part of what's going on. Also, what's going on is this person over here might be feeling upset. That person over there is tired, so they might not be receiving this, you know, at their fullest potential. The words that I'm using right now are coming out a little bit faster because now I'm nervous, or now I'm upset. So, you know, it allows you to kind of think about these different things on a minute or a second-to-second basis. And I'm not saying, you know, you become some kind of genius superhero or anything like that, but it is helpful on literally every single day. It allows me to check myself and reorient. Yeah.
And this is a good question that we receive from friends. What advice do you have for people thinking about
This is classic advice, obviously, but don't wait till the last minute on your essays. 4 essays is a lot of essays. Let's see. As far as advice, honestly, I would reach out to alums. I think that's something that you'll find if you are accepted, and also if you're interested in the fellows program. I myself, I'm more than happy to have a quick phone conversation, or if you live in New York, we get a coffee or a tea or whatever you want to do. But I honestly think the biggest piece of advice is to talk to somebody about it. The thing about the fellows program is that it's different for everyone, because it's so much shaped, or so often and so critically shaped by the people who are actually in it, where there's so much flexibility based on different group personalities or group priorities. So every fellow has a different experience. It's not like going to a grad program where you take class X, Y, and Z. It is so shaped by the people who are in it. So you have to talk to individuals, both within a program year and also from different program years, because my cohort was so different from the cohort after mine and the cohort before mine. So getting those different perspectives is critical to understanding what the program is like, or could be like for you, because it is, that's the beautiful and terrifying thing about it, is it's different every time. Okay. Versus some other opportunity?
Or just in general.
I think it's, I feel like I should summarize everything we just talked about. But it's going to be hard in a couple of minutes. Let's see. I think if you're excited about the urban fabric, and you're excited about justice, and you're excited about, if you have a vision for how something should be, or even if you have a vision for how something should not be, this is the program, and this is the network for you to actually get that done. There's so much focus on the getting things done, sort of ethos, like how does that happen? And so it's not just about goals, it's about how do you get to done, and like what is done. And I think we all have this this like this tension of like, okay, like how do we make this thing, you know, complete, or even, you know, even on track to being complete, because some of these things will just never be complete, but how do we get moving in the right direction? And so this program is, it's the skills to actually get there, to actually do the work, and then it's the people that you need to actually do it, because none of these problems that are worth caring about are as simple as something that one person can handle. So it's all about building these different coalitions and different relationships, how to do that. So the lovely thing about it is that you can come to this program with almost any idea, any ambitious idea. Like this is the place to get the tools and the people to actually execute. So it's, and you can even, a lot of these ideas get executed while the fellows are in the program, which is like the really exciting thing. There's very good friend of mine who's the year before me, had his placement project in 6 weeks became a whole Department of Education initiative, because that was what he loved. That's what he wanted to do. And he did it so well that it became something that's part of the biggest school system in the country. So that's like the level of practical impact that you have in the program, and then it prepares you to have a really very, very large magnitude of impact later on after you graduate.
Thank you so much.
Please, my pleasure. Yeah. Of course.
And then so, thank you so much.
My pleasure.